A lot of people think that if your pelvic floor is too strong, it won't stretch enough during birth, leading to tearing. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you have been lied to. That's not how it works. And if someone has told you to do pelvic floor exercises the opposite way round during pregnancy, to engage on the inhale and release on the exhale, unless you've been given this by a health professional for a specific reason, please don't do this.
These myths and more could be stopping you from preparing your pelvic floor properly for birth and postpartum recovery. In this video, we're going to break down the biggest pregnancy pelvic floor myths, explaining what's really happening in the body and show you how to train your pelvic floor the right way so that it works for you and not against you.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to help grow our channel. We really love hearing from you. But let's start with the biggest myth of all. Myth 1. A strong pelvic floor causes tearing during birth. As I've already said, this just isn't true. Here's where most people are going wrong.
Strength isn't the problem. The ability to release and relax the pelvic floor is. Your pelvic floor is meant to stretch and open during birth. But if you've been unknowingly holding tension in your pelvic floor all the time, that's when problems can arise. Please remember that. This isn't about making the pelvic floor weaker. It's about training it to function properly, which means knowing when to engage and when to release.
You can think of it like your bicep. To get strong biceps, you wouldn't just hold your arm in a flex position all day, right? That would only make your bicep, well, strong in that position, but pretty tight and pretty tired. Instead, you train it for a full range of motion, strengthening both the contraction and the release. You would also let it rest. The exact same goes for your pelvic floor. It's not just about being strong, it's about having the ability to contract when needed and fully relax when it's time to let go, especially during birth.
Tearing during birth is actually more likely to happen due to 1. Pushing too quickly. If the baby is born too fast, the tissues don't have time to stretch gradually.
2. Positions that put excess pressure on the perineum. Lying on your back with legs in stirrups makes it harder for the pelvic floor to open.
And number 3, not knowing how to fully let go during labor. If your pelvic floor is gripping when it should be releasing, that's when resistance happens. So instead of weakening the pelvic floor, the focus should be on letting it release properly when it's needed, especially during birth.
But don't worry, we're going to explain how to do this later in the video. Let's move on to myth number 2. You should stop doing pelvic floor exercises in the 3rd trimester. Some people believe that by the 3rd trimester, you should stop all pelvic floor exercises to avoid making the muscles too strong for birth. But stopping completely is not the answer, as we've already gone through in myth 1. In the final months of pregnancy, the focus should be on maintaining coordination, i.e. ensuring that your pelvic floor can both engage when needed and fully relax for birth.
Rather than stopping, we need to shift towards functional training that mimics the demands of labor and delivery, such as 1. Practice deep squats with controlled breathing, allowing the pelvic floor to lengthen naturally.
2. Use positions that support optimal birthing mechanics like hands and knees, side lying, and forward leaning postures.
3. Integrate breath work that promotes full body relaxation while keeping the pelvic floor responsive and adaptable, like the diaphragmatic breath. This approach prepares your pelvic floor for birth without compromising strength or control, helping you feel more confident and supported during labor.
Myth number 3. Kegels are the only way to train the pelvic floor. Many mothers have been told to just do your Kegels during pregnancy. That's only part of the story. Kegels are one way to strengthen the pelvic floor, but they don't address mobility, coordination, or relaxation. All of which, you may have understood this already from this video, but they are crucial for pregnancy and birth. Think of it like training for a marathon. You wouldn't just do calf raises and call it a day, right? That would not end well. You'd work on endurance, flexibility, technique. The pelvic floor needs the same balance of strength, where you learn to engage the muscles properly, mobility to make sure that the muscles can move through a full range, and coordination to teach the pelvic floor to work with the breath and core.
This is why functional pelvic floor training is more than just Kegels. The tips in myth 2 will help you with this, as well as myth 4, a tight pelvic floor means a strong pelvic floor. A tight pelvic floor doesn't always mean it's strong. In fact, it can be weak and dysfunctional if it's very tight. If your pelvic floor muscles are always gripping, they can't contract properly when needed. Remember the bicep example? If you held your arm in a flexed position all day long, it would feel tight and it wouldn't be strong. The same applies for your pelvic floor. Constant tension doesn't equal strength. True strength comes from being able to engage when needed and fully release when it's time to let go.
Gripping your pelvic floor constantly can lead to issues like pelvic pain, difficulty fully emptying the bladder, a higher risk of tearing during childbirth, constipation, pain during intercourse. A healthy pelvic floor is one that can contract and fully release.
To work on releasing your pelvic floor, let's try this. Exhale, feeling a slight lift to the pelvic floor, where you imagine you're zipping from the back passage to the front like you're trying to stop yourself from passing wind or water. You can even imagine an elevator going up 1 or 2 floors. Inhale and feel the lower ribs expand 360 degrees and the pelvic floor release and lengthen. Here you can imagine that elevator going back down to ground floor, down to the basement. Repeat this 10 times.
The goal isn't tightness, it's control and function. Myth number 5, you should reverse your breathing pattern during pregnancy. So some people are told to change how they breathe in pregnancy by engaging the pelvic floor on the inhale and releasing on the exhale to train for birth. Now, unless you've been given this by a health professional for a specific reason, this is not correct and it actually goes against how the body naturally works.
When the pelvic floor isn't working in sync with the breath, it disrupts the entire pressure system of the core, which includes the diaphragm, the deep abdominal muscles, and the pelvic floor. This can lead to issues like breath holding, excessive tension, or increased intra-abdominal pressure, which may contribute to things like pelvic floor dysfunction or coning in the abdomen. Instead, focus on training your breath to work with your pelvic floor, not against it, so that the entire deep core system functions efficiently and supports you throughout your pregnancy and, of course, your postpartum recovery.
So here's how it should function. So as we inhale, the diaphragm contracts and moves down. The pelvic floor then naturally relaxes and lengthens. On the exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and moves up, and the pelvic floor contracts and gently lifts. Now that you know the truth about pelvic floor training during pregnancy, let's do these steps together in a class. So watch the next video and I'm going to guide you through the whole process. Join me on the mat.
Thank you so much as always for all of your support. It really means a lot to us. We hope to continue supporting you in your journey, being the best you can possibly be in your body.